NUFORC sighting report occurred the 22nd of February 2007, 1 hour 10 minutes and 0 seconds. Local location: Evansville, Indiana, USA. Shape: rectangle. Duration: 2 minutes. Know of observers: 2 characteristics: lights on object. Large craft passed overhead. Noise emanated: definitely not standard aircraft. Report from amateur astronomer: have you received any reports of a large plane or other object passing over our skies at about 1:10 a.m. Thursday morning of February 22nd? I certainly saw something, raced up to tell my brother, and he saw it as well. I was peeking my head out our window to see if Sirius had set yet and to see Saturn, when I noticed what looked like 2 stars of equal magnitude that I didn't recognize. Not that I'm knowledgeable enough to notice something out of place, it just looked odd. They were moving though, so I thought plane, which would be nothing out of the ordinary. They are always overhead, blinking away. These really weren't blinking. And the lights were too far apart to be from the same plane. It passed overhead slowly, couldn't have been extremely high in the sky, on account of the wingspan covering a wide field of the sky. There was a noise similar to the kind of noise you get as a large plane many thousands of feet in the sky passes overhead. You know, you see it and the sound is slower, so it appears that the sound of it is trailing behind. It was very low in pitch, could be easily heard from indoors, and spooked a few of the local animals, including a cow, which I didn't know lived so close to us. Smiley face. I could not make out a shape of the object, just its lights. 3 of them, 2 on the outside being a very light orange with the third being grayish but not centered in between the 2 on the outside. They weren't crisply flickering. I'm not even sure you could say they flickered at all. I wasn't sure who to contact. I looked in the phone book under Evansville Regional Airport, but the numbers were for parking employees, security office. None of them seemed like the right contact for this type of question. Anyways, I just wondered if anyone else had seen it and reported of it, or if there was some kind of way you might forward this to anybody who would be interested or aware of what was flying overhead during that time. I am an amateur stargazer, have seen planes, planets, meteors, all the like. But this was quite unusual and worth my trouble to email you, and hopefully I wasn't too much trouble for you to hear out. Thanks.
Occurred the 9th of March 2008, 19 hours 48 minutes and 0 seconds. Local location: Evansville, Indiana, USA. Shape: light. Duration: 2 to 3 seconds. Know of observers: 1 characteristics: aura or haze around object. I was driving south on a back road off of Highway 41 in Darmstadt, IN, near the city of Evansville, when I looked up and saw a large, white ball of light moving rather slowly across the sky, moving from west to east. It was about 1,500 feet up and appeared to be descending slightly as it moved into some clouds and disappeared. The entire sighting only lasted a couple of seconds. I rolled down my window to get a better look and to listen for any sound, possibly from an airplane. There was none. Thinking it might have been an airplane anyway, since our airport is only 7 miles from where I was, I drove by the airport to see if any planes had landed recently, but from my observations none had. Besides, the approach for this craft would have been all wrong to land at our airport. I am a family man in my late 30s with a college degree. If you post this, you can call me Real Wolf.
Occurred the 2nd of April 2008, 21 hours 40 minutes and 0 seconds. Local location: Evansville, Indiana, USA. Shape: triangle. Duration: 2 minutes. Know of observers: 1 characteristics: lights on object. Aircraft nearby very dimly lit, low flying, silent triangular object spotted over Evansville, Indiana on the aforementioned date. At the aforementioned time I was on the telephone in the 3rd floor apartment that I live in Evansville, Indiana. I had been talking to a friend of mine and decided to take the conversation out onto the balcony while I smoked a cigarette. The night sky was clear and the stars were very visible. As I spoke on the phone to my friend and smoked, I looked up at the night sky because the view was spectacular. At this time I saw a triangular-shaped dimly lit object come over the apartment building and move at a steady but somewhat slow pace on a northwest trajectory. It only seemed to be about 200 to 300 feet above the ground and not very large. It made absolutely no sound. I watched in astonishment and relayed what I was seeing to my friend via phone. I then hung up and thought about what I had seen to see if there was a logical explanation. I thought of geese because of the somewhat low flight pattern. However, in my experience here in Indiana, you always hear geese when they fly overhead. Honk honk.
This also fails to explain the lighted nature of what I had seen. It was almost like a kite with very dimly lit lights along its edges, possibly 6 if you count the point. It was so dimly lit in fact that if not for the motion of it, I may not have noticed it at all. I called my mother in Louisiana to describe the event to her, and once again as I was talking to her I scanned the skies. It was then that I sighted movement in the northwest and saw the same object taking a nosedive downward for about 5 seconds and then once again disappear. First time I have ever experienced a sighting of any kind in the night skies.
Occurred, the 10th of October 2008, 4 hours 50 minutes and 0 seconds. Local location, Evansville, Indiana, USA. Shape, formation, duration, 10 minutes plus no of observers. 1 characteristics, lights on object, aura or haze around object. Aircraft nearby. I saw a huge V-shaped object moving slowly and silently over the rooftops in my neighborhood. I heard a noise that woke me up about 4:40 a.m. It sounded like jets flying over low, and they continued for several minutes, so I got up to look outside. The jet noise was gone, but I saw an oval-shaped object high in the sky with a series of rotating, strobing lights on the bottom. I shut the door and went to get my glasses, and when I opened the door again there was a huge V-shaped object, very low in the sky, huge, moving silently and slowly across the sky. Moving north to southwest directly over my backyard, then over my neighbor's house. I stared at it for several minutes. I was so scared I just shut the door again. I decided to open the door again, and when I did, the other oval-shaped thing was back in the same place in the sky and the V-shaped thing was gone. This happened this morning. I live near the expressway, but I have not heard of any news reports of anyone else seeing it. This V-shaped thing looked as big as a warehouse or bigger.
Occurred, the 18th of November 2008, 17 hours 25 minutes and 0 seconds. Local location, Evansville, Indiana, USA. Shape, unknown duration. 5 minutes no of observers. 1 characteristics, lights on object, changed color. Aircraft nearby. 2 small craft with a sequence of red lights made an instantaneous 90-degree turn to follow a commercial aircraft. A clearly identifiable commercial aircraft was flying to the northeast over the campus of the University of Southern Indiana. 2 smaller craft of unidentifiable shape but blinking with red and white lights were heading towards the northwest. They were flying in formation, one was closely following the other. Initially, I presumed they were military jets, but I could only hear the noise of 1 aircraft engine. When they reached the spot where they bisected the flight path of the commercial aircraft, both smaller craft immediately turned at a 90-degree angle and began following the commercial jet. These smaller craft did not bank, as airplanes would do, they simply changed directions in an instant. Once they changed direction, they also changed color. Instead of blinking red and white, they were blinking red only. Further, the location of the lights changed as well. Instead of appearing to be on either side of the craft, a series of red lights blinked in sequence as if along the side of a circular craft. At this point, 2 additional craft appeared. They were even smaller than the initial 2 and they blinked with only white lights. They flew near the initial group for a few seconds. Then they flew off rapidly in 2 different directions, one to the southwest, the other to the northeast. The commercial aircraft and its companions were ultimately lost to sight, continuing to head southeast.
Occurred, the 21st of January 2009, 18 hours 15 minutes and 0 seconds. Local location, Evansville, Indiana, USA. Shape, unknown duration. 4 seconds no of observers. 2 characteristics, lights on object, aura or haze around object. Left a trail. Aircraft nearby. A yellowish light shot through the sky like a meteor but arched and disappeared.
Occurred, the 24th of March 2010, 20 hours 15 minutes and 0 seconds. Local location, Evansville, Indiana, USA. Shape, duration, 5 minutes no of observers. 1 characteristics, lights on object, changed color. On March 24th approximately 8:15 p.m. Central Standard Time. I saw a large amber light just above the tree line, at a distance 10 degrees. If you hold a large marble to the horizon, that's the size. This was to the east, I turned all directions to see if anything else in the sky looked like this light. I also saw an amber light directly to the west of this east light. I concentrated on the larger amber light in the eastern sky. It seemed stationary to me, then started moving to the south. As this light was moving south, I still saw amber in the front, blue, yellow, as we know it, other variation of amber to me. Colors were flashing on outside of craft. Flashing not at bottom, could tell it wasn't at the bottom, but through the middle of the craft. I then could no longer see it due to trees.